Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Hockey Talk with TG podcast. I'm Ty Glenn. Hopefully you guys are having a great Monday and happy Cinco de Mayo Day to everyone that celebrates it. Got lots of NHL news to cover, so make sure that you stay tuned in to this episode until the end. Before we go ahead and get started, as always, do me a favor. Go follow the Hockey Talk with TG podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and iHeartRadio. Make sure that you subscribe to the YouTube channel. We are with you every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 11:30 a.m. to noon Central Time, 12:30 p.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Time. So you want to make sure that you are staying up to date on the latest episodes of the Hockey Talk TG podcast so you can get the latest hockey news that is trending right now. Yeah, and also you can stay up to date on the latest episodes of the Hockey Talk TG podcast. But without further ado, we are going to go ahead and get right into the NHL news for today. We'll start off by talking about the Game 7s from this past weekend. Game 7 between the Avalanche and Stars on Saturday, and then Game 7 between the Blues and Jets on Sunday. But of course, we'll start things off with the Avalanche and Stars Game 7. And what a Game 7 it was, as Mikko Rantanen had a 4-point night against his former team as the Dallas Stars win 4-2 over the Colorado Avalanche. He recorded a hat trick and an assist for a 4-point night. All of that coming in the third period. And according to the BR Open Ice and Dallas Stars pages on social media, on Twitter and Instagram, Mikko Rantanen is the first player in NHL history with a third period Game 7 hat trick. He's also the first player in NHL history with back-to-back games with 4-point periods. And he finished the series with 12 points in 7 games against his former team, 5 goals, 7 assists for 12 points in 7 games, and he leads the playoffs overall with 12 points, and the Dallas Stars win this series 4-3, overcame a 2-0 deficit in the third period, scored 4 unanswered goals to win 4-2 against the Colorado Avalanche, and they will play the Winnipeg Jets in the second round of the 2025 Stanley Cup Playoffs. And also good news for the Dallas Stars, their top 4 and top defensemen, Jason Robinson and Mikael Rantanen, are set to return after sustaining lower body injuries in the regular season. Of course, they missed the first round of the Stanley Cup Playoffs because of those, said injuries to Jason Robinson and Mikael Rantanen. Of course, Jason Robinson sustained a lower body injury in the regular season finale in the Stars' 5-1 loss to the Predators on April 16. He led the Dallas Stars with 35 goals in 82 games played this season. He was third on the team in points with 80, behind Mikko Rantanen, who had 88, Matt Duchene, who had 82. Mikael Rantanen, he sustained a knee injury after colliding with Golden Knights forward and team captain Mark Stone on January 28 and missed the final 32 games of the regular season after undergoing a surgery on February the 4th. He had 25 points in 50 games played this season, 5 goals, 20 assists, so 25 points in 50 games played this season for Mikael Rantanen. So that's got to be some good news. Great good news for Dallas Stars fans, because you're playing the President's Trophy winners in the second round of the Stanley Cup Playoffs, which, of course, that President's Trophy curse could still continue. Who knows? But fun fact, Coach Pete DeBoer is now 9-0 all-time in Game 7. So that's the fun fact to point out after that Dallas Stars Game 7 win. Of course, he had some Game 7 victories with San Jose Sharks, maybe Vegas Golden Knights, possibly the New Jersey Devils as well, other teams that he's coached before in the Stanley Cup Playoffs. And fun fact, the Dallas Stars are now 4-0 all-time in Game 7s against the Colorado Avalanche. They won in the 1999 Conference Finals, 2000s Conference Finals, 2020 second round, and now the 2025 first round. They reached the Stanley Cup Final after each of the first three, which of course 1999, 2000, and 2020, they were all in the Stanley Cup Final. Dallas Stars won the Stanley Cup, their only Stanley Cup in 1999. They reached the Stanley Cup Final in 2000 and 2020, which of course in 2000 they lost to New Jersey Devils, and in 2020 in the bubble during COVID they lost to the Tampa Bay Lightning. Wyatt Johnson scored the game-winning goal on the power play with 3 minutes and 56 seconds left to go in the third period, assisted by Matt Duchene, another former Colorado Avalanche right there. And of course, after Jack Drury took that penalty in the third period, I was like, you know what? Game over. Just like that. Obviously, the Stars needed to capitalize on that power play, and they did. And like I said, Wyatt Johnson had the game winner. Scored at the side of the net, near the goal line. And like I said, Matt Duchene got the assist on that. Jake Oettinger made 25 saves in the win. And fun fact, coming off that win, Jake Oettinger is now 3-1 all time in Game 7. So when it comes to these Game 7s, he has no problem with that. The only Game 7 loss coming in 2022, where the Flames defeated the Dallas Stars in 7 games. And the late and great Johnny Gaudreau scored that iconic Game 7 overtime game winner against Jake Oettinger. For the Colorado Avalanche, Josh Manson and Nathan MacKinnon scored for Colorado. Of course, Josh Manson's goal was a shorthanded goal in the second period, and Nathan MacKinnon scored 31 seconds into the third period to make it 2-0 Colorado. Now is when Dallas came back with 4 unanswered goals to, tie the game. To win the game 4-2. And Mackenzie Blackwood made 15 saves in the loss. And fun fact, the Avalanche have now lost 7 consecutive Game 7s. They have not won a Game 7 since the second round of the 2002 Stanley Cup Playoffs against the San Jose Sharks. And for head coach Jared Bednar, he's now 0-4 all-time in Game 7s against when coaching the Colorado Avalanche, of course, 2019 against the San Jose Sharks, and then 2020 in the bubble, and then what else? 2023, was it 2023 or 2024 against Seattle? I think it was 2023 against Seattle, and now obviously being this one, 2025 against the Dallas Stars. And I don't understand how the Dallas Stars lost, not the Dallas Stars, the Colorado Avalanche lost Game 7 when the Dallas Stars didn't even have Jason Robinson and Emil Heiskanen in the lineup. But of course, if you've been listening to the Hockey Talk Tuesday podcast, we talked about how Tomas Harley has stepped up as a key piece in Emil Heiskanen's absence. We also talked about some of the Dallas Stars' secondary offense and getting secondary scoring. But still, even without Jason Robinson and Emil Heiskanen, you still end up losing. And Nathan MacKinnon actually said the same thing that I'm saying right now to you guys. This is what he said on the Game 7 loss, and I quote, "They were missing their best defenseman and maybe their best forward. We still couldn't beat them, so yeah, I don't know what we're going to do." And I certainly agree with that quote. I don't know where the Avalanche go from here. After losing this Game 7, I thought they had it in the bag. If you watch my Stanley Cup playoff predictions video, I did predicted that the Colorado Avalanche would win against the Dallas Stars. I also said that series could go either way. So, I'm kind of am surprised, and I kind of am not surprised, if you know what I mean. But I did predict Colorado to win over Dallas in 7 games, but obviously ended up not being that way. But according to Mark Lazarus, senior writer of The Athletic on Twitter, Nathan MacKinnon said that he was quote-unquote shocked after the loss, and he also said that this was quote-unquote the worst loss of his career. So, yeah, I feel bad for Nate Dogg. Obviously, like I said, I did predict the Avalanche will win in 7 games. And Nathan McKinnon actually did finish the series with 11 points in 7 games, 7 goals, 4 assists, for 11 points in 7 games for Nate Dogg. And I got to give it to the Colorado Avalanche. Even with the additions, I felt like they could have at least made it to the second round. Or some people are even saying conference finals. I didn't think they could make it to the conference finals, but that's what some people said. But I think they could have at least made it to the second round. Even with the new additions, getting Jack Drury, getting Martin Necas, Brock Nelson, I believe Charlie Coyle at the deadline too. So they had a lot of great additions to this team. And even getting their captain, Gabriel Landeskog, back in the lineup. Obviously, he missed 3 seasons with the team. He last played in Game 6 of the 2022 Stanley Cup Final. He scores his first goal since then. I should say since Game 3 of the 2022 Stanley Cup Final in Game 3 of this first round series. So, yes, this was a loss for the Colorado Avalanche. Excuse me. This was a loss for the Colorado Avalanche. But I think with the return of Gabriel Landeskog and the additions that they have, there's a lot to look forward to with this team. And like I said before, I believe that they will create a documentary on Gabriel Landeskog's return. The return has been it's been an absolute journey. If they do create a documentary about this, hopefully it'll be somewhere like on Netflix or ESPN Plus for us to watch. Because I think Gabriel Landeskog's return does deserve a documentary. Hopefully they do create a documentary on that. I think it will be fun to watch. But wish nothing but the best of luck to the Colorado Avalanche heading into next season. Obviously, not the way that I was expecting this to go, and I certainly didn't expect Mikko Rantanen to have a superb night against his former team. But you heard him in the post-game interview that those were his brothers, those were his guys, his teammates. No love lost against the Colorado Avalanche for Mikko Rantanen. And hearing Gabriel Landeskog's point, he said he didn't care if Mikko Rantanen scored. I mean, like I said, that's his brother, that's his teammate, his best friend, you know. So, like I said, no love lost relationship for Mikko Rantanen and the Colorado Avalanche. I mean, there's still family to Mikko Rantanen in a way. So, yeah. But that was a great Game 7 overall. Absolute cinema from start to finish. But moving on to another great Game 7 in the Winnipeg Jets and St. Louis Blues, as Adam Lowry scored the double overtime game-winning goal as the Winnipeg Jets went 4-3 against the St. Louis Blues. He scored with 3 minutes and 50 seconds left in double overtime, deflecting the puck off the shot from Jets defenseman Neil Ponick past Blues goaltender Jordan Binnington, and the Jets win the series 4-3. They will play the Winnipeg Jets They will play the Dallas Stars in the second round of the Stanley Cup Playoffs. I did not mean to say Winnipeg Jets twice. The Jets were down 3-1 heading into the third period. And then, of course, they got late-minute goals with 2 minutes remaining from Vladislav Nemestikov, which made it 3-2. And then with Cole Perfetti with 1.6 seconds left in regulation, tied the game up for the Winnipeg Jets. And fun fact, Cole Perfetti's game-time goal with 1.6 seconds remaining in regulation is the latest game-time goal in a Game 7 in NHL history. So, just when you thought this was going to be a 3-2 Blues win to end the series, the Jets pull off one of the most amazing comebacks in the Stanley Cup Playoffs, in Stanley Cup Playoffs history, and probably in Game 7 history of the Stanley Cup Playoffs. And then they win 4-3 in this game. They win the series 4-3, and then they will play the Dallas Stars in the second round of the Stanley Cup Playoffs. Cole Perfetti actually scored twice in this game. He had a power play goal in the second period to cut it to 1. Cut the Blues lead to 1, I should say. And then, of course, the game tying goal with 1.6 seconds remaining in the third period. Neil Ponick finished this game with 3 assists. And Connor Hellebuck made 26 saves in the win. Jets defenseman Josh Morrissey left the game in the first period after a hit from Blues forward Oscar Sundqvist. And Mark Scheifele did not play in this Game 7 due to an injury sustained earlier in the series. So they were without their best forward and arguably their best defenseman. But they still found a way to win this game and to win the series against the St. Louis Blues. And for the St. Louis Blues, Jordan Kyrou, Matthew Joseph, and Vadik Foska scored for St. Louis. Of course, Jordan Kyrou, Matthew Joseph's goals coming early in the first period. And then Vadik Foska had the late goal in the second period to give the Blues a 3-1 lead after Jets made it 2-1 on the power play goal from Cole Perfetti. Jordan Binnington made 43 saves in the loss. And I said going into the first overtime that the Blues were going to win. I had to say that as a Blackhawks fan, considering Jordan Binnington's track record when it comes to playing Game 7s, and especially what happened in the Four Nations back in February where he and Connor Hellebuck were scoring off, and it was Jordan Binnington and Team Canada winning the Four Nations in February against Connor Hellebuck and Team USA. So I had to go with the St. Louis Blues winning because of that. But Connor Hellebuck, he had a stellar night, I should say. He exercised the demons. He bounced back in this game, and he had a superb performance, putting on an absolute show, holding down the fort to give the Jets the win. So it may have been Jordan Binnington and Team Canada winning the Four Nations, but it was, well, I should say it may have been Jordan Binnington getting the upper hand in Four Nations, but it was Connor Hellebuck getting the upper hand when you needed to the most in the Stanley Cup Playoffs Game 7, and the Jets are moving on. But as a Blackhawks fan, yes, I am happy to see the St. Louis Blues are eliminated from the Stanley Cup Playoffs. It puts a smile on my face. But on the other hand, I have to give a little bit of respect to this team. You know, even though I hate this team very much, because Blackhawks Blues, long rivalry, long history with each other. Even though I do hate the Blues, I also have respect for them, especially for Jordan Binnington. I love watching Jordan Binnington, one of my favorite players to watch in the St. Louis Blues. I thought he had a great game despite the loss. Jordan Kyrou, another player I love to watch in the St. Louis Blues. Why? Reason why I have them both on my fantasy team during the regular season. But this Blues team has a bright future. I mean, they battled so hard for a playoff spot. It almost felt like 2019 all over again for St. Louis, considering how dominant they were after the Four Nations, and then trying to get into that playoff spot. They actually won like 13 straight games at some point during the regular season. So ever since that coaching change for the St. Louis Blues, firing Drew Bannister, getting in Jim Montgomery, it certainly has been an unreal second half of the season for the St. Louis Blues. And, you know, like I said, lots of respect to the team. I want to say little because, like I said, I do hate the Blues, but I also got to give them some respect as well. They fought hard. They fought well throughout the series. They fought hard throughout the second half of the regular season, getting in the playoff spots. So, yeah, it's certainly unreal. Wish them nothing but the best heading into the offseason. And speaking of off-season stuff and other NHL stuff going on, it's time to talk about the 2025 NHL Draft Lottery. So the 2025 NHL Draft Lottery will feature live drawing on TV for the first time ever, and this will allow fans to witness the process in real time, and the lottery will take place today, Monday, May the 5th at 6 p.m. Central Time, from the NHL Network Studios in New Jersey. Sharks had the best odds at drafting the number 1 overall pick at 18.5%. And then there's my Chicago Blackhawks, who have the second best odds at drafting the number 1 overall pick at 13.5%. Fingers crossed that we get Michael Misa on the team. We don't need another defenseman. Matthew Schaefer is projected, or I think is projected to go first overall in the 2025 NHL Draft. But if the Blackhawks wind up getting the first overall pick, which I don't think they will, but let's say if they do, hopefully they don't take Matthew Schaefer. Hopefully they take Michael Misa and draft him. I really think he can benefit alongside Connor Bedard, but we'll just have to see what happens. But yeah, the lottery will take place at the NHL Network Studios, and this will air on ESPN in the US and on Sportsnet in Canada at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time. And the 2025 NHL Draft itself will be held at the Peacock Theater in Los Angeles, with the first round on June 27th and rounds 2 through 7 on June 28th. And the lottery will establish the first 16 picks of the first round of the 2025 NHL Draft, with the 16 teams that did not qualify for the Stanley Cup Playoffs. Overall thoughts on this, I'm really excited to see how this turns out because, like I said, we get to witness it in first time, see where do the odds land for our favorite teams, which as a Blackhawks fan, please let us get Michael Misa. I was saying James Higgins at first, but I really think Michael Misa, with the way he's been dominating the OHL, goal scorer, he could benefit alongside Connor Bedard. Blackhawks really need this young kid on the team. But we'll just have to see what happens come the NHL Draft Lottery. I'll be wearing my Blackhawks jersey and my Blackhawks hat. And hopefully, we may not get the first overall pick. That part, to be honest, as much as I really love to see us get the first overall pick, I don't think it's going to happen. And at this point, like I said, I really don't care. I just want us to get Michael Misa. Matthew Schaefer, like I said, is projected to go first overall. But hopefully the Blackhawks don't draft him and they get Michael Misa instead. Alright, now we're going to preview the second round of the 2025 Stanley Cup Playoffs. So, of course, 2025 Stanley Cup Playoffs second round is set to begin on Monday with Game 1 of the Florida Panthers and Toronto Maple Leafs. Puck drop is at 7 o'clock p.m. Central Time on ESPN in the U.S. and on Sportsnet and CBC in Canada. And then Game 1, the Hurricanes and Capitals will start on Tuesday in Washington. But let's talk about Florida Panthers and Toronto Maple Leafs. So we're going to be previewing the second round series between these two teams and then the other teams that advance to the second round. But we'll start things off with the Florida Panthers and Toronto Maple Leafs. So Florida Panthers obviously finishing in the 3rd seed in the Atlantic. The Toronto Maple Leafs finishing as the number 1 seed in the Atlantic and being the Atlantic Division champions, going up against the defending Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers. Second time that these two teams have met in the Stanley Cup playoffs or will be squaring off in the Stanley Cup playoffs. They previously met in the 2023 Stanley Cup playoffs, also being in the second round, with the Panthers winning in 5 games. And the Panthers advanced to the second round by defeating their division and arch rivals, the Tampa Bay Lightning, in 5 games. And the Maple Leafs eliminated their division and arch rivals, the Ottawa Senators, in 6 games. During the regular season, the Panthers had a 3-1-0 record against Toronto, outscoring them 13-7. And their key players to watch will be Sam Reinhart. He led the Panthers with 6 points in the first round, 2 goals, 4 assists for 6 points in the first round series. Matthew Tkachuk, Sam Bennett, Eetu Luostarinen, and Alexander Barkov each contributed with 5 points. And for the Toronto Maple Leafs, William Nylander led Toronto with 9 points in the first round, 3 goals, 6 assists for 9 points in their first round series against the Ottawa Senators. Mitch Marner finished with 8 points, and Austin Matthews has 7 points. Goaltending matchup is going to be Sergei Bobrovsky against former Florida Panthers netminder Anthony Stolarz. And Sergei Bobrovsky had a 4-1 record with a 2.21 goals against average and a .901 save percentage in the first round series against Tampa Bay Lightning, while Anthony Stolarz had a 4-2 record and also had a 2.21 goals against average and a .901 save percentage in the Maple Leafs first round series against the Ottawa Senators. And like I said, Anthony Stolarz did play on the Florida Panthers. He was the backup goalie for Sergei Bobrovsky. He obviously won the Stanley Cup with the Florida Panthers last year. Now he's on the Toronto Maple Leafs. And looking at the regular season stats, Sergei Bobrovsky was 3-1-0 against Toronto in the regular season with a 1.77 goals against average and a .925 save percentage. Anthony Stolarz was 1-2-0 against the Panthers with a 3.06 goals against average and a .886 save percentage. My prediction for this, I'm taking the Panthers in 6 games. Could be 7 games, but I'm just going to stick with 6 games for the defending Stanley Cup champions. I do have them advancing to the conference finals against the Washington Capitals on my playoff bracket anyway. So why not take the Florida Panthers? And fun fact, the Panthers have won 5 consecutive playoff series and 8 of the last 9, reaching the Stanley Cup final in each of the 2 past seasons. So that's also another fun fact to point out. This trend could still continue for the Florida Panthers, winning another playoff series and possibly reaching another Stanley Cup final appearance. I mean, Tampa Bay Lightning and Florida Panthers have been reaching Stanley Cup final for like 5 straight years. So Florida has been really taking a step and representing hockey in the Stanley Cup final. But now we go to the Washington Capitals and Carolina Hurricanes. We'll be previewing their second round series now. It will be the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference and the Metropolitan Division champions, Washington Capitals, up against the number 2 seed, Carolina Hurricanes. Second time that these two teams will meet in the Stanley Cup playoffs. They previously met in the 2019 Stanley Cup playoffs in the first round, with the Hurricanes winning in 7 games. The Capitals being the defending Stanley Cup champions heading into that series, having won the Stanley Cup in 2018. Capitals advanced to the second round by defeating the Canadiens in 5 games, while the Hurricanes also eliminated the Devils in 5 games to advance, but theirs was a double overtime victory. Sebastian Aho with the double overtime game-winning goal to eliminate the Devils and advance to the second round. And the Capitals and Hurricanes split their 4-game regular season series with a 2-2-0 record. And nobly, Carolina clinched the playoff spot with a 5-1 victory over Washington on April the 2nd of 2025. But taking a look at the Capitals' key players, Dylan Strome led the Capitals in the first round with 9 points, 2 goals, 7 assists for 9 points in the first round. Alex Ovechkin has 5 points for the Capitals with 4 goals and 1 assist. Tom Wilson, Connor McMichael, and Anthony Beauvillier also have 5 points for the Washington Capitals. And taking a look at the Carolina Hurricanes side, Andrei Svechnikov led Carolina with 5 goals and 1 assist in the first round. Sebastian Aho had 3 goals and 5 assists. Seth Jarvis had 2 goals and 3 assists. So those are some of the Hurricanes' top players. Andrei Svechnikov did have a hat trick in Game 4 for the Carolina Hurricanes to win their Game 4 against the New Jersey Devils. And take a look at the goaltending matchup. It's going to be, if Freddie Anderson doesn't return from injury, it's going to be Logan Thompson versus Pierre Kochetkov. And Logan Thompson had a 4-1 record with a 2.23 goals against average and a .923 save percentage in the first round. And of course, Charlie Lindgren stepped in for Logan Thompson because he was injured in the Capitals Game 3, lost to the Canadiens. And Freddie Anderson had a 3-1 record with a 1.59 goals against average and a .936 save percentage before sustaining that injury. Pierre Kochetkov stepped in and he made 31 saves in the Hurricanes' Game 5 win over the New Jersey Devils. And take a look at their regular season goaltending stats. Charlie Lindgren is 2-1-0 with a 2.68 goals against average and a .91 ace save percentage. And Logan Thompson, of course, allowed 3 goals and 12 shots faced in 20 minutes before getting pulled in the Capitals 5-1 loss to the Hurricanes on April the 2nd because of an injury. Freddie Anderson, he went 1-0-1 with a 2.41 goals against average and a .89 ace save percentage in 2 games for the Hurricanes. And Pierre Kochetkov went 1-1-0 with a 2.57 goals against average and a .884 save percentage in 2 games for the Hurricanes. And in the regular season against each other, Seth Jarvis had 5 points and Jackson Blake scored 3 goals for the Hurricanes. Seth Jarvis with 3 goals, 2 assists for 5 points in the Hurricanes regular season series meetings against the Capitals. And like I said, Jackson Blake had 3 goals. For the Capitals, Alex Ovechkin and Dylan Strome each had 3 points in the regular season series. And my prediction for this one, it's going to be a tough one, but I'm going to go with Capitals in 7 for this second round series against the Carolina Hurricanes. Now I'm going to preview the VGK, Vegas Golden Knights, and the Edmonton Oilers second round series. It will be the number 1 seed and the Pacific Division champion Vegas Golden Knights against last year's Western Conference champions and the number 3 seed Edmonton Oilers. Second time these two teams will square off in the Stanley Cup Playoffs. They previously met in the 2023 Stanley Cup Playoffs. Also in the second round with the Golden Knights eliminating the Oilers in 6 games. And of course going all the way to the Stanley Cup Final and winning the Stanley Cup in 2023. Vegas advanced to the second round by defeating the Minnesota Wild in 6 games. While the Oilers eliminated the LA Kings also in 6 games to advance to the second round. And just like the Capitals and Hurricanes, the Golden Knights and Oilers split their 4-game regular season series 2-2-0. And notably, Vegas goaltender Adin Hill started all 4 games of the regular season series with a 2.82 goals against average and a .901 save percentage, including 1 shutout. And taking a look at the Golden Knights key players in the first round, Jack Eichel and Tomas Hertl led Vegas with 5 points each, with Jack Eichel getting 1 goal and 4 assists, Tomas Hertl getting 3 goals and 2 assists. Mark Stone and Shea Theodore each contributed with 4 points. And for the Edmonton Oilers, Connor McDavid led Edmonton in the first round with 11 points, 2 goals, 9 assists for 11 points in the first round, followed by Leon Draisaitl with 10 points, 3 goals, 7 assists for 10 points in the first round. And Evan Bouchard, who I always describe as an offensive defenseman, has 7 points in the first round, 4 goals, 3 assists for 7 points in the Oilers' first round series against the LA Kings. Take a look at the goaltending matchup. It's going to be Adin Hill against Calvin Pickard. And for Adin Hill, he had a 4-2 record with a 2.83 goals against average and a .880 save percentage in 6 games in the Golden Knights first round series. For Calvin Pickard, of course, he started the next 4 games after the Oilers were down 2-0 against the LA Kings, going 4-0 with a 2.93 goals against average and a .893 save percentage in 5 games. Like I said, and Stuart Skinner, he started the first 2 games and he went 0-2 with a 6.11 goals against average and a .810 save percentage. And head coach Chris Knobloch turned to Calvin Pickard. Now he's going to be, possibly the main one starting over Stuart Skinner, the unsung hero, as I talked about numerous times throughout this playoffs on the Hockey Talk with TG podcast. My prediction for this one, I did predict the Oilers to win the Stanley Cup at the start of the season. It's not going to happen anymore, I don't think. But I could see this going either way, though. I don't know. I did predict the Oilers to win the Stanley Cup at the start of the season. And then I said it's not going to happen anymore. So I predicted Vegas could go all the way and win the Stanley Cup. But I don't know about this one. But I'm going to say Golden Knights in 6 games against the Edmonton Oilers. But let me know you guys' thoughts on that. I think it could go either way, but I'm sticking with Golden Knights in 6 games. All right, last second round series to preview, and that is the Dallas Stars and Winnipeg Jets. So it's going to be the number 2 seed Dallas Stars against the President's Trophy winners, Winnipeg Jets. And this will be the first time that these two teams will face off in the Stanley Cup Playoffs. They have not faced off in the Stanley Cup Playoffs before. Not even the original Winnipeg Jets, who of course moved to Arizona. But before they moved to Arizona, the original Winnipeg Jets did not square off in the Stanley Cup Playoffs against the Dallas Stars. And then if you count the Atlanta Thrashers, who of course moved back to Winnipeg, even they didn't square off in the Stanley Cup Playoffs against the Dallas Stars. So this will be the first time that these two teams will square off in the Stanley Cup Playoffs. But Game 1 of this series will be in Winnipeg on Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. Central Time. That game will air on ESPN for you guys to watch. Both teams that advanced to the second round by winning their Game 7s. Stars won Game 7 at home against the Colorado Avalanche by a final score of 4-2. Jets won Game 7 also at home against the St. Louis Blues by a final score of 4-3 in double overtime. And in the regular season, the Jets won 3 of their 4 matchups against the Dallas Stars, outscoring them quite significantly. And goaltender Connor Hellebuck posted a 3-1-0 record with a 1.01 goals against average and a .965 save percentage against the Dallas Stars in the regular season. But as you take a look at the Dallas Stars key players, it's obviously got to be the Moose, Mikko Rantanen. He led Dallas in the first round with 12 points, 5 goals, 7 assists with 12 points against his former team. Rope Hintz and Wyatt Johnson each contributed with 7 points. Take a look at the Jets key players. Kyle Connor led Winnipeg with 12 points. He's been that unsung hero for the Winnipeg Jets, coming up clutch in some of their games in the Jets first round series against the Blues. He has 4 goals, 8 assists with 12 points in the first round. Neil Ponick and Cole Perfetti each contributed with 5 points. Mark Scheifele had 6 points before going down with an injury. And the goaltending matchup is going to be the 2 goalies who played for Team USA at the Four Nations, and Jake Ottinger and Connor Hellebuck. And Jake Ottinger had a 4-3 record with a 2.85 goals against average and a .910 save percentage in the first round. Connor Hellebuck had a 4-3 record with a 3.85 goals against average and a .830 save percentage in the first round. And like I said before, when I was recapping the Stars in Avalanche Game 7, that the Stars will have Jason Robinson and Miro Heiskanen return from their injuries. So this is going to be a big step for the Dallas Stars and also great news for the Dallas Stars. But with that being said, my prediction is going to be Jets in 7. This could go either way with Jason Robinson and Miro Heiskanen coming back in the lineup for the Dallas Stars, but I'm still going with Jets in 7. I believe they get it done in 7, and they go all the way to the conference finals, and which also hurts Coach Pete DeBoer's record because, like I said, he's now 9-0 all time in Game 7, but he probably might get his first Game 7 loss against the Winnipeg Jets. All right, Stanley Cup playoff games on the slate for today. There's only one Stanley Cup playoff game on the slate, and that is Game 1 of the Florida Panthers and Toronto Maple Leafs second round series. That will start at 7 o'clock p.m. Central Time on ESPN. Like I said, they met in the 2023 Stanley Cup playoffs, also being in the second round with the Panthers winning in 5 games. Does that change this year with the Maple Leafs winning the series against the Florida Panthers and going to the conference finals? We'll just have to see. But like I said before, I'm sticking with Panthers in 6 games. We'll just have to see if Toronto could go all the way to the conference finals. And if they do, I think this will be the first time since, 2002 that they went all the way to the conference finals. Correct me if I'm wrong. But that's going to do it for this episode of the Hockey Talk with TG podcast. Thank you guys for tuning in as always. Really do appreciate it. Like I said, make sure to follow the Hockey Talk TG podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and YouTube. So you can stay up to date on the latest episodes of the Hockey Talk TG podcast. Both of you guys have a great rest of your day. Hopefully you have a great Monday. Hopefully you have a great Cinco de Mayo. Keep God first as always. Be blessed. I will see you guys Wednesday for another episode of the Hockey Talk with TG podcast. Take care.